Hello, this is a very quick introduction to PGLake. PGLake is a new extension for Postgres to make it behave like, or rather to add support for lakehouse format. So yeah, I have my Postgres here. I installed already using Docker, and what I really like is the architecture is extremely simple. So you will get basically two servers. So you have the Postgres here and PGLake is running, and then you will get another container. It's basically DuckDB server, but the DuckDB server is not exposed to the outside world. Basically, there is no TPC, and the only way to connect between the two is using Unix socket, whatever it means. And you need just to pass credential and the cache, the disk cache, which vanilla DuckDB does not support. And all your data will be stored in S3 or Azure, or in this case, Onelake. So okay, let me just show you the Docker. Yeah, so this is the Docker image. And as you can see here, there's no port, so you cannot connect, and you connect here to PGLake. So let's go back here. The setup is very simple. You just pass the root path here in Fabric Onelake, and then you pass the credential. You can use Azure CLI, but you need to install it for in the container. It's a bit more complicated. The way they implemented the Iceberg is they use Postgres as a catalog. And so here I'm connecting to Postgres and listing the table, and those table are Iceberg table. So they have a nice extension just to generate data and for testing. So I generated TPCH10, which again is right into Onelake, and then I ran the test. This is the worm, and I'll explain a bit the difference. And I got 19 seconds. So I get between 25 to 6, like the best I got 16 seconds, which is very, very good. Obviously, I'm running everything in my laptop, so wherever I open other software like Chrome or Edge or like Outlook or anything like heavy or not, it will impact the performance. So yeah, so after I got the TPCH, then I generate new star schema. And notice here it's just a standard PostgreSQL. For Iceberg, you need just to write using Iceberg, and that's it. You don't even need to write the path or location because I have already defined it. You can if you want. Another interesting functionality is that it has support for Delta, but it's read-only. And unfortunately, like DuckDB, the way it supports Delta, there is two approaches. Either you pin the version, which make it way faster and potentially can be cached in memory, or you just every time you run the query, it's basically behave like a view. So currently, it's behaving more than view. Basically, there is no cache. And the trick of PGLake, or actually any data warehouse for that matter, if you want things to be fast, they have to be cached. Like cold run is slow, and that's the trick. You need to read from the local cache. Then this one is just for fun. I wanted just to test the high concurrency, not really high, I would say medium. So I seed the initial table with like 1 million rows, and then I start operation concurrently, starting from one worker and then one worker, it means it's serializable. There is no concurrency, and then two worker, 4 and 8. And as you notice here, the native PG table, no, sorry, the native Postgres table, obviously it's designed for this, so it's extremely fast. It's in the millisecond, below 100 millisecond. And PG Lake Iceberg becomes slower, but it has an advantage is that contrary to vanilla Iceberg, which use optimistic concurrency control, here it seems they use basically they use Postgres for transaction management, and although it gets slower, it never fail. So here, for example, DuckLake, it's a known bug. They're working on it. You get errors, and my understanding, everything is serializable, which is awesome. There is another trick here, and sorry if I keep repeating the same thing. Yeah, you can check because it's Postgres. You can see the query, the query plan. Yeah, as you can see here, the query plan, and there is a custom scan, query push down, and it's pushed to DuckDB. Usually for the OLAP type of queries, basically DuckDB SQL and Postgres is nearly identical with DuckDB. Initially, I think they used Postgres parser. So there is a very good compatibility between the two SQL dialects. So here, let me just show you some. Yes, the RLS. There is a nice functionality here because it's Postgres. It does support row level security. You cannot apply the policy directly on the table. Apparently, it's a limitation of the foreign table API. But what you can do, you can create something called secure view, which do the same thing. And you create roles, and you say this role can read only these rows, and then you give those roles to users, and then when they connect to the view. And then the Postgres will run a query. Basically, the trick is they don't have access to the base table, but they can query the views. And I tested here. Maybe I should run it again. And I created basically roles for by country and say, this guy can see only if you are from the US, you can see only the data for the US. So the first role is Postgres, and it's basically super user, so it can see everything. And then if your role is Algeria, you can see all the Algeria, then the same thing for France and so on. All right, so let's go to the more interesting part. Maybe I should start it here. Because it's Postgres, finally, you can use direct query with DuckDB, which was like a big limitation. The DuckDB has the ODBC, and they've been working on them for years, but they're not great with Power BI for whatever reason. I ran the performance analyzer, and usually it's between like 1.4 second to 3 second. That's the. Keep in mind that whatever I do, because my recording software is literally consuming all my CPU, that you get it slower. But off the record, like when I'm not recording, I get like maybe like 2 seconds. Keep in mind there is no result cache because Postgres does not support result cache, but it's reading from the from the local disk, and it's not calling Onelake. Anyway, because in this setup, Onelake, I'm using US East. I'm in Australia, so I think there's big distance. Okay, so yeah, there is only one limitation but this one is not, I think it's well known. Power BI, basically Power BI catalog does not support foreign table in Postgres. I made a search and apparently it's a known issue. So the trick is what you need to do. Just give me a second. Yeah, you need to write the query directly. So here, just select the star from that table. It's a bit annoying, but it works. I hope Power BI team fix that. Then, before we end, and this is the part I like, is you don't need to see the Onelake. You just write the data there. So everything here, it's written by Onelake. Yeah, for Iceberg. Because Postgres, the guys of PG Lake, they came from Postgres background. So transaction consistency, it's kind of big deal. So one trick is let's say you write a table and then you delete the table and then you write it again with the same name. Here they treat it as a separate table, and basically every table name will have a specific path. So here you get this path. If you delete the table and you run it again, you create it again, then you will get a new path. The workaround is, and actually this is good practice, just don't drop table, just truncate, just delete data and insert new data. But it's fine, you can make a shortcut and instead of here putting this number, just write the name. And yeah, it's fine. So here it's just a shortcut, and Onelake behind the scene will just add delta metadata. Okay, so far it seems everything is good. Yeah, it's good actually. I like, because it's very simple. I like the simplicity. The change they made to DuckDB is not intrusive. It's not like they forked or anything, and it's still Postgres, and DuckDB is used only for acceleration, but it's not like the core. Still, it's the core tag, but they kept it as it is, which is nice, which is very, very nice. Having said that, there are like the trade-off because of the architecture of PG Lake, which is basically, it's fundamentally Postgres. There are some stuff in DuckDB that does not work out of the box. So if you write group by all, it will not work. So Postgres does not understand that. Unless the developer of PG Lake add options, then I tried read CSV and ignore like extra columns. I deal with some dirty CSV with multiple variable column, and it did not work. This is not like fundamental, but you have to do the work. There is yeah, because PG Lake is not one extension, it's a lot of smaller extension doing specific thing, which is good. The implication is like not all of them are open source. I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing or a good thing, just for information. So the replication, the extension to do replication is closed source. So what I mean by replication is there is trick where you can just write to a heap table and automatically replicate to Iceberg. apparently it's closed source. I was surprised, like the PGLX is only interested in accelerating OLAP table, and they don't seems to be interested in accelerating heap tables. Although there is like a lot of work going on in DuckDB just to do that. Um, I'm not sure if it's really accelerated or not, but I was just surprised. This one is not like critique by itself, but I was expecting, given that I would just like playing Postgres and I forgot about this lakehouse thing. For me, they're just tables, and they've done a good job of abstracting the lakehouse and the storage and all this stuff. I was a bit, I was hoping that they had enforced primary key. And before you say this is not how it works and you don't understand lakehouse and all this stuff, this is not like a physical limitation. Like you cannot have an object faster than speed of light. That's a physical limitation. But enforced primary key, no, it's just a trade-off. I understand not having enforced primary key for when you have a table with 1 petabyte. But if you have smaller, I doubt that you deal with 1 petabyte with PGLake. It's single node after all, and there is limit. I can see the use for having lakehouse with primary key, and I don't see why it was not implemented. And after all, like QD just support primary key. Yeah, but overall, it's nice. It solved a problem with direct query to Power BI. So just for that, it's worth it. And I like the simplicity. Yeah, so thanks for listening, and I hope you find it useful. Bye.